What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Hit or Quit. I am Jenny Autumn, and we are back for a brand new, exciting, very messy show here on Amazon Freevee, but premiering on YouTube first. It's called The GOAT, and I can't do this alone. So I need to bring in one might say the GOAT of podcasting. I don't know if I'm gonna get myself in trouble with some other people for saying this, but like he's on like another level. I couldn't do this without my guy Chappelle. Chappelle, how's it going?
I'm good. Yeah. One person probably said that I was the GOAT of podcasting. So you're right. One said, yeah. You said one might say it. No, absolutely no. One said it.
Yes, that was not the time to be humble, okay?
No. You know, I thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you about House of Villains.
Yes.
That was so much fun. And this feels like a very similar show with less villains, and so yes. Yeah, definitely feel like this is right up my alley, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'm excited. Let's get into it.
The show is like House of Villains coded in that it is bringing together a bunch of reality stars from different kinds of shows that are iconic or memorable or important in their own ways, or possibly just available for the production schedule, as Daniel Tosh, the host of the show, will say. And also, so it's got that element, but it's like a new show, not really sure what the structure is there. And there is a comedian as a host, which is my personal favorite. And it's just confusing, a little silly, not taking itself too seriously. That is my like main takeaways of this show after watching the premiere. So it does feel very, definitely has its differences and isn't quite as villain focused as obviously House of Villains was. But it just felt like, let's get the band back together. Chappelle and I, like, we were really excited to see what this was all about. And yeah, they hit us with the little surprise premiere dropped on YouTube, I believe yesterday afternoon or evening. And I believe the next 2 episodes are going to drop next week, May 9th, I believe, on Amazon Freevee. So check that out. And we will be doing every episode. We're in it for the long haul here on the GOAT. So, but yeah, I had a great time watching this premiere. I'm still reeling from it because I was just like, what is this? I loved it though. I'd love to hear what your takeaways was after this premiere voyage of the GOAT.
I have so many thoughts because in my mind, this is literally just House of Villains, but like not House of Villains. It's very weird because I think House of Villains likes to highlight the characters, right? The villains are the main stars of House of Villains. It was New York, how do you be more villainous than New York? I don't know, bring in Johnny Bananas, like they were just trying to up the ante with all these villains. And I think people come to see those villains because there's going to be big personalities. But for the GOAT, the concept of the show as it's given to us is that these are the people who are the greatest of all time at being on a reality show, not having impact on a reality show, not winning a reality show, not being villainous, not being big characters, but existing on reality TV. Exactly. And I think that brought in a lot of different layers than we were looking to for Heroes versus Villains, for House of Villains, because House of Villains was like we were there for each of those personalities. This is more a celebration of the shows you might like, because no disrespect to some of these characters, but I wouldn't even say that most of them are the most entertaining character from their show. But I would say that, but I think that the shows that they're on is really what the people are like, oh yeah, I know this person from that show. So maybe this is just our chance to really lean into that part. But yeah, this to me just feels like kind of like a knockoff House of Villains. And because look at the host. You get Daniel Tosh, who tells us he has to be the host because he's a white man. He's hosted Tosh.0, which is basically a clip show with skits. Well, we had Joel McHale, who was doing a clip show. I don't even know if he had skits. I think he did. And so it was essentially 2 sides of the same coin there. I don't know. In my mind, I'm just kind of like, that was House of Villains. This is House of Heroes, or something like that. You know, so very
Yeah.
similar but very different. I'm ready to talk about it.
House of Participants, because I mean, like I said, even Tosh, you know, makes the joke in the opening that it was like, these are the greatest contestants of all time, or that were available during the production schedule. Like
Right.
you know, he's even making the joke that, like, you know, we're not even claiming that these are like the most iconic people. But what I like about it is that one, it's got more contestants starting off than House of Villains. I believe House of Villains was just 10 people, whereas we're starting off with 14 here. And you know, we're starting to see, we're in this era of reality TV where things are very self-referential and like meta, and we're getting things like, we're getting the Avengers of reality TV on all these shows. Like, we're getting the Traitors, where we're getting all, you know, like a bunch of these people from different reality TV competing in a new show together, and like, we love it. This is great. This is like, you know, we're living our dreams, seeing people on TV that we watched years ago and never would have thought we'd see them on the same screen together, stuff like that. So, but this, I feel like, is the most, like, this is peak self-referential meta, and like, the show to me is almost kind of like just paying homage to like reality TV in general. It's almost like a love letter to reality TV by creating a show that is, and it seems like, you know, each week is going to kind of draw inspiration, whether it's from the challenges or like the format, from other reality TV shows. And so it's not like necessarily being like, oh, this show is kind of like Big Brother. Oh, this show is kind of like The Challenge. Like, it seems like the plan is to kind of grab inspiration from like a bunch of different shows. And I like that with this cast, they really went everywhere. Like, I'm sure hardcore reality TV people, there are people that are familiar with every single person and every show that is represented here, but it's like, it's a wide range, and there's no way that any single one of these participants looked at everyone who came in and knew who they all were. Like, they definitely have their little buckets. Like, I'm sure some of these people are familiar with like enough of the cast, but it's like random enough that like they really cast a wide net in terms of representation of reality TV, and I think that that's very, very fun. And yeah, I don't know. I just think like it's really interesting how they've set this up, and we know that Tosh is like a huge reality TV guy. So and it seems that he's like executive producer here too. So like his fingerprints are all over this after this first episode, especially. Like, he's very much, and that's one difference I noticed between this and House of Villains, is that like Joel kind of like shows up, he's like, I'm here to get paid, and make some jokes, whereas like Tosh is sprinkled throughout this episode. He's very much a part of the show, which I think is fun and very, very silly.
Yeah, Tosh is in the house with them at some point. You know, like they don't even really acknowledge it. But he's just wandering around the house in a robe. It's like, oh, like during the strategy talks. I don't know if that's something that he just does as a bit, or if he's actually living in the house. How often he's going to be interacting with them is not clear. But you're 100% correct about the amount of reality TV contestants and from different shows, because we do have like the Bravo bubble that all seem to know each other. Then we have Joey from The Circle, who says, oh, well, I know the Netflix people. And he also knows the dating show people, because he's familiar with Tasia and the Bachelor people as well. Something, oh, okay. Then we have, of course, Wendell from Survivor, who we assume would know of, or at least has met Davon once or twice, right? And then, per usual, we have like our 90 Day Fiance and Vanderpump representation. Sprinkled in. But this time, we get representation from RuPaul's Drag Race. I was very shocked to see Alyssa Edwards walk in, because for some reason I know this cast was announced a long time ago, but I forgot. They've been talking about it for like a year. I definitely did not remember.
I remember when they first announced this last year, people were like, what? like seeing the photo, like the promo photo of like all the people on this show and being like, pardon. And then I have, you know, squirrel brain. So I forgot about this. So I was having my own moments of like knowing I was covering this show, watching it for the first time and being like, oh, that person. For me, the biggest shock, because I remembered some of the bigger names, as obviously, especially like either ones that I was familiar with or, you know, shows that I don't watch, but I know that they're like a character from that show. The one that threw me off completely and I had no idea was CJ from F Boy Island, a show that I have, because here's the thing, I watch reality TV, but I am not a connoisseur of, you know, the highest level, and I come by that honestly, and I think that can help in some cases because I'll be on a little bit more unbiased on some of this stuff because I'm like, this is my introduction to some of these people, which is what I kind of like about these shows is, but I know F Boy Island. I have covered F Boy Island with Kirsten McInnes over on the Hot Dummies on Islands feed. I know CJ. I covered her season and I was like, wait, what? Like that just felt like a random inclusion. Like we were like laughing about like, oh, they brought someone from 90 Day Fiance on like House of Villains and we got another 90 Day person here. But I'm like, the inclusion of F-Boy Island was even like more crazy to me, but I'm like, this is one of the people I know. Like, what is going on here? So I think it's very, very fun. And it's like they're not doing too much from one world. So, and we kind of see that start translating through the course of this episode and how like alliances start forming because there's like little pods of like you were saying, of like these people know these people, but it's not like one person who's like got to be connected to everyone because it's so random.
Yeah. I was very excited when I saw CJ from F Boy Island because I thought to myself, I have no clue who this person is, but Jenny does because Jenny covered the show. So I was like, yes, because I think for House of Villains, we had a good handle on most of the people, you know, and then like where we had blind spots, we were able to kind of fill those in. I'm very proud of myself for calling that Anfisa was going to do so well on that show. I mean, she really did almost win the show. So I was very happy for her. But I don't know anything about CJ, and I don't know anything about Paola from 90 Day. So there's a few of them that I'm kind of like, okay, I'm ready to learn with everybody else. But as far as the ones that we all know, no, I'm ready to get into some of the mess with some of the fan favorites or the more noticeable names for my, you know, experience in reality TV. Because anytime you tell me Davon's going to be on the screen, sign me up. And, you know, it's perfect timing for me. And I love me some Davon.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is like, I definitely have blind spots and I come by that honestly. But one of the fun parts about House of Villains is that like we had people in our community that like really were like knew certain shows and were really familiar with certain contestants. And so that's the beauty of this thing. It's like an even wider net of people. And I'm definitely going to be leaning on some people to help me, you know, figure out what we should expect from some of these people. So that'll be fun. But yes, the CJ of it all was extremely random to me. And like I've watched a little bit of 90 Day Fiance. I've never seen anything with Paola. Like, but yeah, there's the people that I am familiar with, I'm very, very excited about. Yeah, I don't know. I just what should we go beat by beat on like who was here, or do you want to just like how do you want to talk about our contestants here?
I don't think these are like the big, huge names like they were on House of Villains where we really need to stop down and get into their dossiers of why they're here, because we know all these people are just here because they were on reality TV shows and it worked for the schedule. And so, yeah, so let's just talk about them as they come up in the episode. Because I don't really think like no disrespect to Paola, but she ain't do nothing in this episode, so I don't really think we need to highlight her too much.
For sure. And that's the thing is like with a bigger starting cast, you know, there's only so many people that can kind of get content through, because a lot of this episode is set up. So we're just kind of learning how this works, what the format is, and I'm still not even completely clear on what the format will be going forward. It seems like that because Tosh comes in, he kind of introduces himself to everyone. Joey from the circle is very thrilled and says, Tosh.0 is the shit. And he announces that like this week it's all about survival shows. We're getting the survivor counter for Wendell every time he mentions the word the name survivor, which like that could have been happening for other shows too, right? Like maybe that was unfair to Wendell especially because the theme of this episode and its challenges were survivor themed. So do we feel like Wendell gets kind of done a little dirty here by getting the survivor counter during the episode that was themed with survivor-esque challenges?
I'm going to say something that's going to sound mean to Wendell, but it's not. Okay.
I'm ready. Okay.
Okay. I think that the survivor counter, if it was anybody else, I would say this would be, yeah, they're doing him dirty because it's making it sound like all he does is talk about survivor. And we know that's probably not the case. He's a new, he has a baby on the way at this time of filming and all this other stuff. So we know he has a lot of stuff going on. We also kind of know Wendell in real life. So it's like, we're aware that he doesn't only talk about survivor. But Wendell on television is not dynamic television all the time. You know, his season of Survivor, he won the season and you wouldn't even know it. You know, it was just kind of like, because it was just like, they didn't give you a lot of Wendell's like character moments.
Part of a pair, like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't really just like jump off the screen as this is the star of the season, even though he won, right? And that's a lot due to editing and stuff. But also, Wendell's just really good at just being a level-headed person in amongst chaos. And so if you don't give him this, you're not going to show Wendell at all. So you have to kind of they have to manufacture some excitement for the Wendell edit in the first episode, because Wendell is good at these games. You know, that's why he's playing again, is because he knows how to situate himself in the middle. He knows how to be diplomatic and talk to people. So that's what's it. It sounds bad when I say, you know, Wendell needs something like this, but yeah, a gimmick wouldn't hurt him in a big, huge cast of people with big personalities, because Wendell's good at really making himself malleable and just sliding in to fit into the pack where he needs to go.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. And that's exactly the kind of stuff that makes you successful at a game like Survivor. And is exactly why, like, Wendell would never have gotten a call for House of Villains, obviously.
Right.
And that's why, like, the theme of this show is kind of interesting, because, like, what is the GOAT? You know what I mean? Like, yes, we know the GOAT, greatest of all time. Like, but you know, Tosh is saying like these people are really good at being on reality TV. And I'm like, you can definitely say that about Wendell, even though if he's not always like the biggest character in the room, like the man is successful. Like, you know what I mean? Like in what he's doing. And you know, he's been on reality TV aside from Survivor as well. So it's like, I think that they wanted to have a little bit of fun with it, but maybe he truly was mentioning Survivor in Confessional a lot more, like compared to some of these other shows. But I can see the sense in it because of the theme of what was going on. It's like, yeah, if there's like a format here that is like a little Survivor-esque, like in Confessionals, you're gonna be like, this is where I came from. I'm sure they were all doing that in that first, like, you know, episode of content, like, because they're gonna be asked like, how is this like I feel like Tayshia said a lot about The Bachelor.
Yeah.
I mean, like they could have done like a Bachelor counter for Tayshia, even, who was obviously a presence on this episode as well. So I like your interpretation there, where they're trying to kind of give Wendell some character by like kind of like poking fun at him. I don't know. I was trying to like interpret what they were doing with that because I didn't think it was like egregious.
Right, but it's definitely not. I'm sure Wendell is not at home like loving that edit, right? But I think it's the opposite of House of Villains. The villains come in and they already have their isms, they already have their catchphrases, they already have all that stuff. For some of these people, you gotta kind of create that for them. Like, all right, well, here's your new thing, you know. Because if they really looked at Wendell's past on these reality shows, and you know, like he's got a girl, they kicked it, you know, like all this other stuff, like the stuff in the past has kind of been a little messy, and I'm sure Wendell was try to stray away from that, and so they're like, if this is New York, you 1,000% can do a counter on New York saying wild stuff, or Bobby Light. Remember Bobby Lights? Like, just imagine how many times Bobby Lights has threatened to vote everybody out of the show. You know, the counter you can do for that. You know. And Fisa pretending to be listening to somebody when she's really just thinking about money. Like, those are the big villain moments that Ray has, where it's like, for Wendell, like, poke fun at him a little bit. He'll be all right. He's a big boy. He can handle it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, he's still a pretty big presence in this episode as he kind of ends up taking like a leadership role in these challenges. Should we start with like the kickoff challenge where we're finding out who the goat of the week is? And I don't know if this is going to be a function every week. Again, this is why I'm confused by this show. Is like the structure of this first episode was somewhat Survivor-y in that there was like an immunity challenge that everyone participated in, and then that person became goat of the week, very similar to the supervillain of the week from House of Villains. And that person was immune from being eliminated, and then also seems to get some power. We will get to that. But then we have another challenge later in the episode, which is a team-based, kind of similar to an immunity challenge with tribes, and the winning team will be also safe. But then it was like giving mergatory vote, where we're going to get to a vote function at the end of the episode where half of the people are immune and the whole house votes. Do we think that it's going like it was this kind of structure because of the Survivor theme, or do you think that they will do a similar structure every week and the challenges will just be like changing with the shows that they're paying homage to? Like, what do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't attach the format to the actual challenge, because you're right. The first challenge was very Survivor heavy. It was essentially the Survivor challenge that we all see, where you stand up on a perch with you balance the little ball on a plate or whatever.
Coconut on a disc.
Coconut on a disc. This time it was a coconut, which got to be easier than those little balls Jeff's always hollering about.
Because like a coconut's not perfectly round, right? So
right,
it probably it's not gonna like just roll. Sits. Yeah,
exactly. And so so they do this challenge. You would think Wendell, being the Survivor player, that he was going to win this, but he thinks that, okay, I can keep my threat level low by not necessarily winning outright all the challenges early on. So there's a lot of Survivor there. And then they go on to do, like you said, they split the team, the tribe. They see the castaways up into tribes of two, whatever, and then they get one side of immunity, and then they do a vote. Very Survivor. But it's like, if they change it for next week and it's a 90 Day Fiance theme, what do they do? It's like, does 90 Day Fiance have competitions that you can like format to where it would change things? Because House of Villains is essentially just the Big Brother format, right? And so this is like the Survivor format, but like in a specific round of Survivor. And so I don't know if they keep it the whole time.
Yeah, the House of Villains format was like, I would say like a little bit Big Brother, a little bit The Challenge in a way, sort of, I guess. But yeah, it was kind of taking inspiration from a couple of those shows. But even this wasn't perfectly Survivor, because it's not like the half of the house that was immune stayed inside while the rest of them were out there and did their little vote. Like that's why I said it was like mergatory, where it was like, okay, half of them are safe, but they also get a vote.
They all get to vote, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. There clearly needs to be some sort of function each week where someone gets eliminated, because we know that people will be eliminated each episode till they're only down to one person who's going to win $200,000, not $1 million.
Not million.
Very important distinction there. And so they're going to be eliminated somehow. I would assume that there will be a vote function each week, because the vote goat.
The vote goat.
We're just only doing the vote goat this week. There's no way. So I think that it must be mostly about the challenges. And in the preview for like the episodes to come, we get some little hints about some of the other like challenges. So I could see like future inspiration from other shows. But yeah, so we get this first goat of the week challenge. It gets down to so the final three here are Wendell, and then Justin Johnson, aka Alyssa Edwards from RuPaul's Drag Race, and then Tayshia Adams from the Bachelor franchise. And like you said, Wendell takes the fall there, which is like very smart for him, I think, here. And then we get a little face off between Justin and Tayshia, and ultimately we get down to, and I'm like, this makes absolute sense because like being a drag performer, like the balance, it only makes sense. And what was wild to me about this challenge though, they were in like their regular clothes. Like they all came into the house like decked to the nines, like, you know, in their best outfits for the arrival for like the first part of the show. And like they didn't get to change into any sort of like competition outfits. Like people are out there in like full on like pantsuits, and like I was like, this is wild to me. So it didn't surprise me that some of these people were like bailing within minutes. But yeah, like I couldn't tell if some of them like ditched their shoes, or maybe they had like different shoes to change, but they didn't have time to change their outfits. But I'm like, I was watching this being like, I can't even imagine trying to do anything in some of these like outfits that people were wearing.
Yeah. It didn't even, it occurred to me when we got to Alyssa Edwards, when we got to Justin, I was like, wait, why is she dressed like that? You know, I was like, oh, they're just in their regular clothes. Like they just went outside to go do this competition. Yeah, now that you mentioned Alyssa Edwards being a drag queen, I mean, I'm sure she's classically trained in like dance as well. You know what I'm saying?
For
so
sure.
like, yeah. But are you familiar? Are you a big Alyssa Edwards and Tayshia? Because those are our final two. Do you know both of them in their previous works?
So here is where I let down so many people. I've never watched Drag Race.
Really?
Yes, and I've been meaning to for so long, and I literally have lists of like the seasons that I should start with. And I keep talking about it. I'm like, okay, because it's like, it's so daunting when there's like that much lore. Like imagine just like saying to someone like, oh, here's like 20 like starting with like Survivor or Big Brother that has like that deep of history, being like, here you go, here's this massive thing to take on. And I find these things daunting. I'm like, where do I start? So I am aware of a lot of like Drag Race people through like social media and like my friends. So I 100% know of Alyssa Edwards. I also believe like she had like a makeup. I feel like she had like a makeup palette or something like that I was aware of from other interests, but not familiar in terms of like on the show at all. So like that I know. Cancel me now. I literally, and it is exactly the kind of show that I would be obsessed with. And I think that maybe is like part of the problem is like, I will not be productive again for years when I start watching this show, because it's going to take me so long to get through it all. I did.
Interesting.
Yeah. I did watch the Bachelor franchise for a certain time in my life. I have since fallen off, but I did watch Tayshia's season. So I am actually, of all like I didn't watch Joe's season. So I'm just like tangentially aware of him as a human. But I did watch Tayshia's season, and I really like her. I enjoyed her as a bachelorette. So this is why it's kind of fun for me though, because like I get introduced to people and I'm like, this person's fun. Like I'm having that experience. But yeah, I was like kind of thinking about who we got down to here. And I was like, that makes sense. Like you're performing in heels, like balance is crazy here. There was a point where I was like watching Tayshia because she had like these big pants that were like kind of covering her feet. I was like, is she cheating?
Yes,
I was like, is her foot?
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm familiar with her because I've seen a couple episodes of The Bachelor / Bachelorette. Like I've popped in from here and there to kind of just like check it out in these most recent seasons. The earlier seasons I don't know, but from probably Tayshia's season on, I kind of kept one eye on it. But so I didn't really have like any strong opinions about her as far as like how she'll do in the game or whatever. But as far as Alyssa Edwards goes, see, I've never really watched Drag Race either, except for there was this one time I was listening to RHAP and they were talking about the new format for Drag Race was going to be now the drag queens can vote each other out. And I was like, oh, well, you have my attention. You know, that's kind of in the same vein of like the shows that I do watch.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I started to check out that season, and it was RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 2. And that's when I met Alyssa Edwards. And then I think I want to say they brought her back again. Like, she's been on RuPaul's Drag Race like a billion times at this point. But I think she came back from like All Stars again, and so like I've seen her like in those realms. So I've never seen a proper season of RuPaul's Drag Race. But I've seen a couple of the All-Star seasons. And so like, you're right. You definitely can get lost in the lore of all those people. But luckily for me, I found my favorite drag queen so quickly. It's Alyssa Edwards. And so I found her, and I'm like, oh, good. Yeah, I don't have to watch 30 seasons of this show. I don't need to know everybody. I already know the one I want to know. And so I was happy to see Alyssa Edwards in here. And I'm surprised Alyssa Edwards didn't win. I was very shocked to see him go down like this. So, it is what it is.
We end up with Tayshia being the GOAT of the week, and that means she's going to be safe. And Tosh explains that there will be another challenge that is going to be teams, and so that Tayshia also gets to pick the teams. That's like an extra advantage. Tayshia comes off as some of those people that does not want any of the extra power, because she already seems a little bit stressed about the like idea. She's like, oh, great to be safe and not have to worry and step back and chill. Love that for me. I have to do things. So she's like, if she were on Big Brother or something like that, she'd be like, I would love HOH so that I'm safe and that I've got a private bedroom. I do not want to nominate people.
She had a lot of experience breaking hearts. That's her whole thing. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, she's probably like, listen, y'all don't understand. Like, y'all vote people out, but she was basically falling in love with 12 people, and then also like being like, oh, I still gotta cut you, and so this is probably tough for her to redo. But I think a lot of Tayshia's powers are gonna come in handy on this show, especially in this first episode. I thought it happened very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. And like, you have to be really good socially, I think, to one, even end up in a situation where they pick you to be the Bachelorette after being on the show. And also to do well because you're trying to keep a lot of people happy. You're having to imagine dating that many people simultaneously. Like, you're having to like learn about people, retain that stuff, and have like these individual relationships and like be able to manage all of those relationships simultaneously. Like, it sounds crazy as I talk about it, but I'm like, the funny thing about like having people from like non social strategy style shows come on to a show like this that has a bit of a social strategy element to it, like being from the Bachelor franchise actually isn't like the worst preparation if you want to look at the social aspect of it in terms of like managing relationships. Like, yeah, you might not be thinking super strategically, and like you might be missing like some game theory stuff, but in terms of like the social part of it and being good with people, good at managing people, like good at making close relationships with multiple people and managing those separately so that you're like good with all of them. Like, I'm sorry, if you've been the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, like, and done well with it, cut people and they still liked you and rooted for your happiness, like, that's actually pretty good preparation for a show that, relies on making relationships so that it helps you in a strategic standpoint. So I do actually feel after this episode, like, very good episode for Tayshia, although we do hear like people kind of picking up on her. There's like a couple different points in the episode where people kind of mention either like not trusting her or thinking she's like a bit of a threat. Did you pick up on that as well? I feel like it came up a couple times.
I think it was our contestant from Love is Blind, right? Was it
Lauren?
Lauren Speed Hamilton. She says, I don't trust Tayshia. I don't trust her. Something about her, I'm just getting a bad vibe. And I'm like, what? From Tayshia? Like, that's interesting, because I just didn't see it. But Lauren and Cameron are one of the successful relationships from Love is Blind, if I remember correctly. I think they're still together, but I don't want to lie.
They at least were at the time of filming, which it was a year ago, and you know, as we all know, things have changed. So they might not be together. I don't know. I didn't get the relationship updates from.
I'm pretty sure that this is like the flagship couple from Love is Blind. Okay. I've seen a few seasons of Love is Blind. I think so. Listen, don't let
I'm new to Love is Blind. I only watched the most recent season, but at the reunion they had a bunch of the couples from previous seasons there, and I don't remember her being there, but maybe she was. I don't know. There's a lot to digest from that reunion, so I might have just like poof out of my brain. But yeah, she when she's talking to Joey and CJ, who make their own little alliance of I don't really know what the theme of that alliance really is. Joey and Lauren have the Netflix connection. CJ is just kind of there. And then I also noticed, so maybe we can just get to the team challenge here. So again, I didn't understand this part. So during the first challenge, Tosh is in a loincloth.
Ass out.
And yeah, but also they were blurring out his front, Chappelle. Do you think that he had like nut hanging out of this line?
Oh my God.
They blurred him from the back and the front. What are they blurring if it's from the front?
I think it's a playful blur. Okay. I highly doubt he's just sitting there, just, you know, balls Johnson hanging, you know, like I just don't.
I don't know. I don't know him like that. Does he?
Like, I just feel like Da'Vonne would have left. I feel like she would just be like, you know what, I'm good. I don't need this. You know, like they seem very cavalier about the amount of ass that was out, you know, in that moment. So I was thinking maybe it wasn't as bad.
Yeah, I suppose. So yeah, it seems like, you know, this show is leaning into the silly in that so far Taj is doing costume changes. He is like different outfits for each challenge. So he's in the loincloth during the like individual challenge. Makes a Jeff Probst reference. This is what Probst wears, right? Like he's doing the self-referential bit, which is very fun. And then we get to the second challenge with the teams, the elimination challenge, and he's dressed like MF and Captain Jack Sparrow, which I'm like, interesting choice for any amount of reasons. But also, can you help me understand what this has to do with anything?
They gotta make a boat. I don't quite know why.
It's because of the boat thing.
This is still a Survivor challenge? Is this still Survivor theme? Like okay, teammates need to build their raft and then, you know, use the raft. I guess this is Survivor.
I guess you could see something like that in literal, like the ocean on Survivor.
I think we've seen challenges like that on Survivor before, where they've had to like build a raft or something. Yeah, sure. I feel like that's not unheard of on Survivor. Like it hasn't happened in a while, but I'm sure it's happened before.
Here's the thing. This show is camp in that it is camp, but also it is like summer camp in that like it's if you like rented, you know, a lakefront property for like somebody's like 30th birthday or whatever, and you held your own game of Survivor for the weekend. Like which I love. I love that they're trying to simulate like Survivor challenges like in the backyard of a mansion. Like with like again, we kind of got this with House of Villains too, and also like Claim to Fame has often done this with their challenges where it's like stuff from the dollar store like, to make a boat. So it's very funny to me. It's giving like I ran my own Survivor in my backyard for my friend's birthday. And that just felt like very like summer camp to me. So I love that about this show. Like already I'm like, this is so corny and like low budget, but also not low budget. So it seems
like
so
the egg drop challenge, you know, where you have to create the situation to drop the egg on. That's how I felt like, oh yeah, take these household items and make a raft. Go for it.
Yeah. and that might be coming, you know.
Yeah.
So we got Tayshia. She chooses her team. So it seems like her team was Justin, aka Alyssa, Tech, Da'Vonne, CJ, Joe, and Reza. And they are the purple team, and then the rest of them are the orange team. And that I was trying to follow what they were supposed to do here. So it was like 20 minutes to build some sort of boat out of supplies, and 3 of them are going to have to travel on said boat like across the pool to get keys, travel across the pool again, and then the keys are used to open the booty.
Yeah.
Gotta open the booty.
Open the booty.
Now this becomes important in that one of the things that they had to do was 50% of their bodies needed to be able to fit on the boat.
Yeah.
This becomes important. And so I'm watching these teams assembling their boat, and we're just like, this Wendell is a builder. Like he becomes Foreman Wendell here, and he's kind of like delegating tasks, and comes up with this idea where they're going to build a decoy boat. So they wanted to make a very small one that would be light and move quicker, but he wanted to throw off the other team in that he expected that they would copy what they're doing, knowing like this team's got it. And he had people building a decoy boat, a second boat that was like a lot bigger and bulkier.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the strategy?
I thought, I mean, Wendell must have picked up that they were like, oh, Wendell's obviously the builder, you know?
Yeah.
Because him and Da'Vonne are not on the same team on this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm sure like Da'Vonne at the very least knows that Wendell has like a carpentry background. Remember, if Wendell's talking about his reality TV experience, he's probably talking about Survivor, but he also was on HGTV.
HGTV, so, exactly.
Like, yeah, like, exactly.
Where was the HGTV counter? Okay, I'm sure he mentioned it to someone. Like they had to have known.
He mentioned it once and nobody cared, so they just never brought it back up. I don't know. But I think that, like, if you look at the HGTV background and you know that he was on Survivor where they have to build a literal shelter, you're probably looking at Wendell like, okay, you know, I'm pretty sure he's got it. He got it figured out. Remember, this is the Survivor themed day. It seemed, you know, and so
that's what Tosh said, basically said based on survival themed shows or whatever.
Yeah, and so I could see it. Where he would feel like he needs to throw them off, but he missed that pivotal aspect of the competition, which is the raft actually had to carry you. You could not just lean on it, and so it had to carry at least 50% of your weight. So when it gets down into the racing portion of it, Wendell's crew wins the race, not by much, but they do win the race.
No, it was like photo finish almost.
Yeah, but they're very much just hanging on to the raft as if almost like it's like a boogie board or something. They're just like kind of using it. The raft is kind of like just to push off of. They're not actually
like a glorified pool noodle, and I like
exactly
pool noodles to like put it together.
Right, and they're just hanging on to it and kicking their feet and their arms, but they're not riding the boat. And so they're supposed to be able to sit on the boat at least 50% of their weight. Obviously, it's a pool, and pool floaties is not going to carry these grown ass people. But they don't follow the rules exactly, and Reza is like, no, we're not going to just glance past that. I got voted out the traitors first. I'm not going out like that this time. Yeah, so he puts his foot down, and then they overturn the ruling, and they give it to Da'Vonne's team. They're the ones who win.
Was this Karening?
No, I think it's not. I think it's not, because I think if everybody follows the rules, Wendell's boat doesn't even get in the water, right? It's not like,
I was confused about that explanation though, because I was like, how are you judging whether, because once they're in the water, like you can't really tell. So like, would someone have been able to look at the boats before they got in and be like, that could feasibly hold? Like, was production perhaps at fault for not catching that earlier and being like, that's not a legal boat?
Right, exactly. I think they're at fault. I think production probably like got one eye on the challenge. Like, oh yeah, like, it's a swimming pool. Yeah. What could happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let's know who won the race. If the race ends, Tasha's like, well, did that. That's good. And then Reza's like, wait a minute, pause. Are we not going to look at the rules? And the rules, because Dale Tosh even says, I'm contractually obligated to read this.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, well, he's like,
because Reza like went to he pulled like was it Chrissy from OTT going to like the rule book in the storage room? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like being like, I do believe one of the conditions of the challenge, 50%. And I mean, it was clearly right wrong. Because we get the amendment to the result that orange becomes disqualified, meaning the purple team is safe. They won. Big reaction from Da'Vonne.
That's what based on that reaction, I think that they had a big argument about that. Like, I don't think it was just like Reza threw it out there and the production was like, let's look into it. I think like they had to put their foot down and be like, no, this is not fair, before it got here. Because Da'Vonne does look like she just won, like she's like crying, like fist pumping, like, I did it.
So I don't follow many or even really any of the people, a few, I guess, from this cast on social media. But I did notice that I follow Da'Vonne, and Da'Vonne has tweeted a little bit about the show since the release yesterday, and also in the days leading up to it, because press was picking up. And it sounds like there's drama. So like, strap yourself in, because I think that we have fire ahead of us. It's going to be messy, which is great for television purposes. But I saw Da'Vonne say something on Twitter about how the reason she reacted so strongly was she knew she was gone if the other team won. Which
really?
Yes. Which I'm like,
we didn't see none of that.
Spoilery. Right. But I don't know. I don't know what that means. I think it means that there was some, I don't know if it's just people like the group that she was with are not people that she was vibing with. And so all of the people, I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Everybody gets a vote. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Something must have happened that we didn't see.
Unless she didn't know at that point that everyone got a vote, and she thought it was going to be like normal Survivor, where only that team like goes to like tribal council,
right? Yeah.
And she feels like all of her friends are on the other team. Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure, but she said that. She said that herself, that the reason she was so like amped was she was like basically like my life just got saved. So I don't know what that means going forward, but Da'Vonne has definitely been like commenting a little bit. Investigate her feed if you're interested, but that seemed to be something that she said about the reaction there, and why she felt that way. But what we do see on the show is like Day goes into like she's safe, but she said that's not going to stop me from doing the most. And she goes into gamer mode post challenge here.
Yeah, she starts off the episode saying, I'm not coming in here strategically. I'm coming in here to make friends, to make bonds with people. Like, we didn't talk about strategy later. Okay, well, now it's later. And I think that if she correctly has looked at the group and said, if I'm available, I'm going first. Like, if she looked at the group and said that, then she really does need to hustle right here, right? Because that means she needs to maintain whatever number she thinks she has and get rid of somebody who's not willing to work with her. She says she likes Joey Sasso from the circle, but it's looking like it's either going to be Joey or this Baker. What's his name? James? Don't make me Jason? Jason. Here it is. Yeah, Jason the Baker. I hate the Baker.
Very fun too.
Yeah. Well, I never knew where it was from. We don't hate this Baker. We love you guys. We love the Baker. But yes, I was very surprised. I don't know him, and so I was very surprised to see that Da'Vonne went above and beyond to go and save him. But if she had a good like idea of where the votes were going, then yeah, she definitely needs to save him, because he says, oh yeah, like Da'Vonne, he's like, we just click. I feel like I already know you. And that's the type of loyalty she's going to need in the game. Because Joey Sasso, he's very integrated with everybody. Like, he knows all the
he won the circle for a reason, Chappelle.
Well, he lost this for a reason, and I would love to know what it was. Like, I'm serious. I just don't know, because it's like when everybody's coming in, Joey knows at least half of them. You would think they have each other's back, but it's like of the 5 people that were up for elimination, he just didn't have enough sway to save himself. And then when it came down to it, he lost Tayshia's vote, and that's probably the nail in the coffin.
I think, part of it comes down to if we get down to like the pitches, where, Joey, again, small sample of people available to be voted for. We only had 7 people eligible to be voted for. And, for whatever reason, some of those people just seemed immune, whether it was by virtue of them just being well insulated or, perception that like they really contributed to the challenge. So it wouldn't be fair, because we see Joey talking about how it should be a weaker participant voted out. And we see Grocery Joe comment on that, basically being like, well, Joey wants a strong or like a weaker person to go because that helps him because he's strong. So then it's not going to be him. But we don't know what the next challenge is going to be. So we don't even necessarily need to be concerned about getting rid of weak people. Like, this isn't early game Survivor. We don't even know what's going to happen next. But of the people available, like Joey would be seen as like one of the more like physical, apt people that could maybe do well in challenges. I mean, we see Wendell talk at points where he's like, I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not the best. And again, like so good at like playing down that, capability where he's like, I don't need to be the loudest or best in the room. Like, I'm good enough to be up there, but not like the biggest, the biggest and most obvious person. Whereas Joey is loud. Joey is social, very friendly, seems very good at making bonds, making friends. We see him trying to put the Riz on Tayshia. Like, he literally got the edit of like attempt at flirtation with Tayshia in like 3, 2, 1. Did you get that from that conversation? Because I was like, I went looking for it because of that edit, but if that could have even easily just been game talk in any other show, right?
Well, maybe, but then they cut to Joey in confessional, and the producers are like, "So, how'd the conversation?" He's like, "Don't talk about it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, like."
So they're picking up that he had like a crush or something.
Yeah,
or like,
yeah, and he's like grinning at her, kind of giving her the eyes. Yeah. But the thing is, Joey, whatever you think your powers are, and they might be immense, you might be one of the best flirters on the planet. This woman was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Do you know how many people have flirted with her? You know how many like times she's been pulled to the side to where she just has to sit on the couch and listen to somebody talk about how much they like her or want to work with her? That she's good at it. Like, it's like she switched into attack mode. Like, it happened, and you could just see her like glowing. She's staring at him. She's listening to everything he said. And I'm just like, this is what she's battle tested. This is her move. Like anybody pitching to her should not believe anything that comes out of her mouth, because she's done this so many times. You know how many people have just come and just spilled their hearts out to her, and now she goes, yeah, okay. No, I totally get that. No, I see that too. I think one day you and I could definitely maybe, potentially be like, they're good at that. That's what The Bachelorette and The Bachelor do.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, that's why I'm like, my possibly lukewarm take here is that like Bachelor people are actually, if they've been the lead on their show, are actually like in a good position to do well on some of these shows. Like, let's talk. I mean, we don't have to talk about it, but like, think about how Pilot Pete on Traitors season 2, he basically became like a cult leader. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had the people that were working with him were like enamored with him, and would die for him. And he assembled a crew. And I think that like that is something that comes with the position you're in when you're like the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, and you're having to like keep all of these people happy, lessen the hurt and these feelings. So we see this happening with Tayshia, where she's very good at working these conversations, but yeah, I just think that when we get down to these final pitches, that again, so we get down to it being, and I'm jumping ahead here, whatever, I'm all over the place. Typical Jenny behavior. We get down to this being a tie vote because the only names that get thrown out are Joey and Jason the chef. And we see Da'Vonne put the work in to try to get the vote onto Joey because she sees Jason as her number. And we get down to a tie, and we learn, how are we going to break a tie? Well, congratulations, Tayshia. Your power once again comes with responsibility, and she is the tiebreaker. So they have to make a pitch to Tayshia to break the tie. And this is where I think some of the reasoning why Joey gets taken out here is Joey basically just says, like, go with your gut. Do what's best for you, like no hard feelings either way, kind of thing. You know, does like what is like a nice thing to say socially, but doesn't really make much of a like plea for keeping him in the game. Whereas Jason does a great job where he like brings a little of like his charm and humor, but he also makes the statement of like, think about who you want to be with at the end of this if you want to win and who you could beat. And basically like not so like subtly saying like, hey, this guy over here is a bit of a threat. Do you think that he's a threat more than I am? Probably. And I think that ultimately, you know, actually resonates with Tayshia because she changes her vote. She was one of the people who originally voted against Jason and breaks the tie and votes out Joey. And so I think that was part of the reason that Joey goes here is that like people did I'm sure Day did good work with some of these people in trying to get the vote onto him, but also they're looking at him and being like, this guy might be a problem for me later because he's good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in House of Villains, the larger part of the strategy was like, okay, whoever gets to be super villain of the week has all this power. I need to be partnered up with people who can win super villain of the week, and we can start to banish the people we don't like. Whereas it seemed like the strategy of this is going to be, how do I make sure I'm not the next one targeted? You know, like because there is no like veto competition essentially.
That we know of.
that we know of. So it's like, I need to keep my hands clean. I don't need to be a target, and that's why you see Wendell throw that first challenge. He's like, I don't want people coming after me and saying, "Oh, you're so strong, I got to get you because I can't beat you in the end." Whereas that's looks like that's Joey's thing. Like Joey won the circle, so he already has a target on his back. But then when he's up against somebody that hasn't won a game or that doesn't have a game like that, you know, like a baking competition is not the same, right? And so Jason's like, hey, you could beat me, and that looks enticing to anybody. So I'm wondering if the strategy moving forward in the game is going to be like, no, are the big threats the ones that are at the most risk? Is it always going to be the Wendells and Joeys of the world that are like, that should be concerned when people like Da'Vonne, and you know, and I've always stood on that Da'Vonne is not that bad in challenges. Like people try to make that like a whole thing. Like she can't win competitions. That's just not the case.
They put her on the challenge. You know what I mean? Right. Like,
and then Big Brother competitions, half the time you throwing them, half the time your team is throwing them. You don't want to win them all. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
half the time
not
carnival games. Like
right, exactly. She won that tiny veto. I'll never forget it. It was the best day of my life.
Yeah.
But you know, but I think like people like Da'Vonne will be able to say like, oh no, I'm not the biggest threat because I don't remember. That's the thing about me. I don't really win stuff. So let's get rid of some of these people who've won. So if I'm
like, look at how many times I've played something and I haven't won any of them. Look at some of these people who have better winning records or whatever.
So if I'm Joey, Wendell, I'm like, how do I get this target off my back? How do I make other people look? So when Joey goes here, if I'm Wendell, I'm concerned because Reza's going to say, I was out first on the traders. I am not a threat. And Jason's going to say, I was competing in the best baker of America. I'm not a threat. Right. Unless there's a cooking competition at the end, I don't think I'm the one you need to worry about. You know? But when it gets to some of like the bigger guys or the more athletic women as well, like it's like, all right, now it's starting to get interesting. So I'm very curious to see what that looks like as far as the strategy moving forward.
Yeah, we definitely have like a lot of like explanation and fallout that I'm hoping to get in the next episode, because one of the things we do see before we even get to the vote is, you know, we have this segment where we see all of like the little groups talking and the alliances being made. We see like the Secret Alliance, aka the Bravo Alliance, and it's like, oh, I've heard that before. And we also see this conversation between Da'Vonne and Wendell that basically Day's like super quick, like, hey, we shouldn't spend too much talking, but like, this is a guaranteed thing. Like it only makes sense for the two of us to work together and protect each other. And so I have to believe that Wendell voted with Day, right? Like I should assume that Wendell voted out Joey, but you're raising because Dave managed to get enough votes against Joey, and I still don't. I think if I sat and thought about it, I could probably figure out who voted for who, but that's boring podcasting for you guys, so I'm not gonna do that. But I think that you raised an excellent point for why keeping someone like Joey is actually better for Wendell. And I'm curious whether he truly did just go with what Da'Vonne wanted, just trying to like, hey, his name wasn't out there, and he was one of the people that was actually at risk. So he's just going to do with whatever the people he's working with are doing, or should he have been a little bit more personally motivated and say, it's too early to get like another threat because again, like we've got a real variety of like ages and like physical types here because of the types of shows they've been on. Like, are you, Wendell, looking at like someone like Joey being like, that's a great shield for me, you know? Like, should I really be getting rid of someone like that who takes like attention and heat off of me right away?
I don't know if that was his strategy going in, but I think it should be pivoting toward, now, like now that you see someone like Joey go, you're like, okay, how do I avoid being the next target when I'm such a big guy? Like Wendell's not small. So, like he's going to stand out in a room full of people, especially as a Survivor winner who's fairly athletic. Like he said, he's got a dad bod going on, but he's no slouch.
And he's social like Joey is too, right? Like he kind of fills that role as well, right?
Yeah, he very much can work a room. So yeah, if I was Wendell, I would be concerned. It's funny too that this show is called The GOAT because they're trying to figure out who the greatest of all time is, and it looks like the strategy is how do you make yourself look like a GOAT? Like how do you make people want to sit next to you? Like no, I like that's look
the different definitions of GOAT. Yeah,
Jason comes out the gate and says, you could beat me at the end. That is a GOAT quote. That is like, that is the concept of a GOAT. Who do I drag to the end that I can beat? And he says that, and Tayshia spares him immediately. So it's kind of like, can I make myself look like the GOAT? Yeah. So it's like, wow, well, if that's the case, then we're playing a different type of game. The game is less about like who's going to stand out and target people and who's going to like run the game, and more about like, how do I hide from everybody? How do I make everybody else look like they're more enticing to vote out than me? How do I make myself the most enticing person to sit next to at the end? Let's find out. So I'm very excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, which is why I agree. I think that it makes it a fun dynamic because it's like when you have seasoned reality TV people and people that have been like iconic, on their shows, some of these people do not have the capacity to make themselves small and unnoticed. The ego with some of these people will be too immense and tender for them to not be on full tilt, like full tilt boogie, like, whether it's trying to win challenges or whether just trying to be involved and controlling things and, not being able to like avoid getting into like arguments with people because of what they're used to and what's made them successful on these other shows. So it's like interesting to see how people might balance that with like the understanding that strategically you might want to start taking some of that attention off yourself if you truly want to be successful in this show. Like it, there's starting with 14 people, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think that that's really funny. And I just think that some of these people will be good at that. And there's definitely some people that I'm like, if the winning strategy here is to say like, look at me, you don't have to worry about me, and then fade into the shadows, like, that's not going to be possible with a lot of these people because we're already seeing the tension growing, and it looks like it's only going to continue based on like the little preview we get of the season.
Yeah, that preview was like I was expecting more cameos from like other people like we did in House of Villains, because House of Villains, it was like, oh, next week we might get Abby Lee Miller, we might get this villain, we might get this villain. This season it seems like, if you just leave these people alone long enough, they'll start to fight, because I'm pretty sure I saw like Da'Vonne arguing with people. It's like it gets real for them on this show, so I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I think that this show already seems to have more of like a game function energy to it than House of Villains did, because like I know you and I talked about this a lot while covering House of Villains, that like there was parts where we're like, okay, are people just trying to be the most villainous? Are they just like, is
Right.
it like,
Just
okay, I
performing.
won't get put up for elimination if I'm like giving good TV, you know? And
Mhm.
it had like this weird, like meta kind of, you know, I'm just trying to be the big version of myself that made me iconic in the first place and be a villain. Whereas like on this show, I feel like the strategy and like game part of it is already seeming to be like a big thing.
Mhm.
Which is fun because like, you know, a lot of the shows that we love that have got us into some of these characters are based on that sort of thing. And it's always fun to see new people that we have familiarity with try to play a game like this.
Mhm.
It is going to be messy, but it's also still so like unserious. Like there were
Yeah.
multiple times during this show I was like, what is it going on?
Why are we
Like
doing this? Yeah.
it was just ridiculous. I know before we get out of here, I need to talk about the vote goat. The voting
So
process.
what? How we don't even get the vote count from like each person. We don't even get to see it. They just
They
we
did a
see them.
visual on they did a visual on the screen of like who was getting votes.
Yes, but not from whom. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Not
would
from
like to know
whom.
who is voting for who, because the
Yeah.
way they're doing it is they slip a sheet of paper into the golden goat's mouth,
Oh, yes.
and then they speak into its mouth as well.
That was so weird though. Like were they all, because I was like, okay, you write on a piece of paper, your little parchment, write the name of the person. They put it into the mouth. If you haven't watched this yet, first of all, the first episode's on YouTube. Go watch it. But there is a giant goat in the mansion. They put the vote into the mouth of the goat, but some of them were also speaking the name, like whispering it, like
They were doing their
into the
voting
mouth.
confessional. Like,
It wasn't
"Forget
a
you,
confessional.
God."
They're just
I feel like they were told they have to say it. Like in my mind,
so many of them
there's a
did it.
little
I was like,
camera
what is
in there. There's a little camera, like so. In my mind, there's a little camera in there, like a Survivor confessional, and it's saying like, "Okay, it's you." But it's crazy because we don't see any of that. We
If
see
there
like
was a camera, they lost the footage. They forgot to hit record because we did not get the throat cam, the goat throat cam.
The throat goat cam.
The throat goat cam. We did not get that. It might have, maybe we'll get it next time. They forgot to turn on the throat goat, I guess. So we'll try next time. But then, so if that wasn't absurd enough, which again, I'm fucking here for the absurdity. It's my favorite. This is so dumb watching grown adults place a piece of paper and speak into the mouth of a giant goat. When the votes are all cast, then Tosh comes in and he positions himself behind the goat for a second. And I said, "Sir, what is going on here?
Please stop."
Yeah,
right.
like just I don't know what Amazon Freebie is all about here, but this is wild. No, there's like some sort of tray that catches the votes positioned in the back end of the goat. He slides this tray out from the goat to get the
What's not normal about that, Jenny? This is normal. You don't think this is normal?
Yeah. It's a completely standard television.
Normal voting mechanism. Put your vote into the mouth of the goat, then whisper down its throat, and then the host will come in, extract the vote from its ass. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know why that's strange. It's probably maybe I need to look inward on why I feel confused about that.
Right.
Because
it's clear.
That's how we do things here. I loved it. So crazy, so absurd. And then the ones that are at risk, they have like a vote goat again. Like they have like their own personal, like it's like My Little Pony. But it's like a little goat figurine.
Like a medallion, like a figurine. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
But it's like the size of like a My Little Pony type. I don't know why I'm fixated on My Little Pony. But yeah, it's adjacent, I guess. And then if you're up for elimination, you have to bring your little goat with you to the ceremony, because the other wild thing that happens here is if you are eliminated, You have to. There's a fire pit out there, and you put the goat.
Throw your golden goat into the fire. Yes, absolutely, Jenny. This is normal reality TV behavior. Stop laughing. This is normal.
I know.
Throw your golden reality TV goat into the fire. Your goat has spoken.
Yeah.
Your goat's up. Spoken. Yeah, you're no longer in the running to be America's Next Top Goat. You know, like you know the end.
It's not your goose is cooked. It's your goat is cooked. As in, we're literally roasting it over a fire.
This is weird. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm okay with it. That's fine.
I love
That's what we signed up for.
It's so silly, but it looks like it's going to deliver on drama. I'm already getting the impression that there is bad blood with some of the cast, which, listen, in everyone's real lives, I want them to live happily and prosperous, unless they're like deeply bad people, which I don't know these people well enough to know that.
Right.
But the reality television, viewer and podcaster in me says, let's get effing messy. And it seems like that will probably be the case here. And the challenges, silly, messy, camp. And yeah, I don't know. Tosh is really fun as a host. He's like all through the episode. I don't know if he'll be that present in all of them, but like, just so unserious. But also, I think we will be having strategic conversations about this show because I think some of these people are like, what's there to lose? Like, I'm just gonna come here and try and win this show.
Yeah, Tosh calls this documentaries for dumb people, and I felt attacked, but also seen in a weird way. Like, yeah, that's exactly what this is.
He's calling himself out when he refers to reality TV as documentaries for dumb people. You know what I mean? Right. So like he's allowed to read us like that because he's also doing it
one
to
of
himself.
Us. Yeah, he's one of us. One of us.
Yes, exactly. Which is what makes him also really fun as a host, because he is going to be referencing like all of these shows because he's really into them as well. And he's not just like, oh, you're a funny person. Let's let you host the show. You have no idea who these people are. I truly believe he knows who a lot of these people are, if not all of them. So that's super fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next. It was like, I think we're just scratching the surface here, and so many people we really didn't even get to talk about just because they didn't have big episodes, but it seems like it's coming just based on the preview.
Yeah, and I'm ready. Yeah. I'm excited.
I'm ready too.
Look, thank you for letting me be the co-pilot on this one, because this is going to be a fun time. But before we go, you have to pick a winner pick. You have to just pick somebody.
Oh boy. Oh, that's hard. I didn't know that you were going to ask me that.
I didn't know I was going to ask you that until just now.
I feel like someone who's going to win a game like this, especially all of the talk that we just did about like making yourself not be a threat, and how that plays into things. I think that a lot of these bigger people are going to like take each other out because they're going to get into big fights. So you're going to see someone win that's like kind of non-confrontational, or like just, and so if I had to pick someone, it's going to be someone like Grocery Joe. You know what I mean? Like,
that's who I was going to pick too. We're aligned. Yes, Grocery Store Joe. Look, he's got winner all over him.
Also, did you notice that in his confessional, well, he had more than one, but like in one of his confessionals, he says, "You might know me as Grocery Joe. It's been a while since I've been on reality TV. Like, but this is my job now." And so the grocery store is no more.
No more.
And so he acknowledges that this is his job now, which I thought was interesting, because the point of this show apparently is about being the best at being on TV. So like if we're doing Edgic, as one really should, on a show called The GOAT on Amazon Freevee, I would say we got confessional from Joe here where I could say that could be winner edit. That could be winner edit, him talking about how this is his life, this is his job being on reality TV. Because I was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this is your job. I thought maybe you should have another job. But
just based off what I've seen, I haven't seen him on too many shows, but it seems like he's done with what he's had. He's done a lot with it, and so it's like, he might be the GOAT at making this stretch. Also in contention, heck,
hasn't worked since 1999, hasn't had to sell no ass. You know, like look, listen, same. And it's, you know, I've worked, but I ain't have to sell no ass, so I totally get it.
Well,
but
some of these people have been on these shows and then have continued to be on these shows by selling ass. So
right, selling ass is a valuable option to get on some of these shows as well. But Tech hasn't had to do any of that, and so he's another one I would like to keep an eye on as far as
he was quiet in the premiere, but he had a very similar confessional to Joe in that he was like, this is what I do. Like, I'm here to work. So yeah, I think that'll, well, we're on the same page about our winner pick, but yeah, I just think that it's like, of course it'll be someone like that. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to, we will be back again. Once, May 9th, the episodes 1, 2, and 3 will drop on Amazon Freevee, I understand. So we'll be back to cover episodes 2 and 3 after that comes out. And then I think it turns to weekly drops. And so we'll be back weekly here on Hit or Quit to cover this incredible show. Hopefully we will get to talk to some of our friends along the way that are super excited about some of these names that we've got on our screen here. But yeah, in the meantime, Chappelle, what else do you have going on? I feel like we're hanging out all the time these days, which is like the dream.
Feels overdue, right? It feels like we should have been did this a long time ago. So this feels right. But yeah, also I saw some breaking Hit or Quit news that a certain claim to fame will be back soon, and so
season 3, baby.
Very excited for season 3 to hear you and Rob talk about that, and yeah, like I love that show too. So good time for Hit or Quit for sure. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, catch me on Recap Kickback. That's my podcast where I talk about what I want to talk about. And recently we talked about the Boondocks, and we talked about we compared it to Good Times Black Again because it got a lot of critical people weren't happy with it. I'll say that. Like it was very, 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 very harshly critiqued, and I feel like people should watch it and give it their own kind of spin. And so we watched it, we talked it through, and so you can check that out on Recap Kickback, or just subscribe to Recap Kickback if you're a fan of me and you want to keep up with what I have going on, because that's where you can find it. And then you can catch me guesting in random places. And so recently I was on the Was It Good Though podcast talking about 1996's The Nutty Professor. We talked about the entire movie. It got ratchet. It was so fun. I had so much fun. I think I cried laughing during that podcast. So check that out and subscribe. Look, cried laughing. And so yeah, please go give it a listen on their YouTube page. Was It Good Though? You can just type it in, and then The Nutty Professor, it'll pop right up. Shoot them a like, a comment, tell them, hey, have Chappelle on more, because I loved it over there. It was fun. And then I guessed it on the Crying Laughing podcast with Ariel to talk about Grey's Anatomy. Ariel and I are popping off our Grey's Anatomy coverage over there on their new podcast feed with him and Dr. Amanda. And so there's a lot going on, but you can catch me in all those places and follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, on all social media platforms at Recap Kickback.
And, you know, like, speaking of crying, laughing, I feel, I don't know if tears were shed, but we recently got together with Rob Sesternino and Puya to got the gang back together because MILF Manor is back for season 2. So we got the crew together to cover another insane premiere of MILF Manor season 2. I laughed. That was just a ridiculous podcast. I was like outside of my body during that podcast. I feel being like, what is going on? This is so truly the most, like, some of the most fun I've had doing a podcast. And Puya is going to continue to steer that ship. So I believe we will be getting the squad back together to cover episode 2 in the next few days. So that'll be hitting the 90 Day Fiancé feed. Check that out there. I also got together with Kirsten McInnes to cover F Girl Island, aka Lovers and Liars. The first 3 episodes, why you should watch that. That's on the Hot Dummies on Islands feed. Had a great time talking about that. I think I even referenced CJ in that podcast. So she was front of mind. And other than that, Chappelle, Rob, and I will continue we're near the end of Deal or No Deal Island. Dondi has a couple more episodes left. So stay tuned for that, and we will be back in about a week's time with episode 2 and 3 of the GOAT. And until then, I'll see you later. Bye.
Peace.